So the previous caller brought up something that I didn't have necessarily planned to talk about specifically. We'll touch on crime stats a bit later on in the show with Matt Rosenberg from WirePoints. He's the senior editor. But I did talk with State Senator Chapin Rose out of the Champaign-Urbana area yesterday after I reviewed some crime stats from the FBI. And the crime stats are rather fascinating. You can actually go and explore all of this yourself through the Crime Data Explorer on the FBI's website. And it's got all kinds of data. You can even look at Illinois in particular to look at data sets on a variety of things, including just the rate of violent crime offenses by population. And you've got Illinois that's way above the United States average. And even in the past few years here, from 2018 all the way to 2020, in the most recent reporting, you're seeing a trend line upwards for Illinois. But what's fascinating here is not just the overall crimes, that violent crimes that seem to be on an upward trend. It's also the number of law enforcement officers that are killed in the line of duty. And this is something else that you can explore through the FBI's Crime Data Explorer. And what I was able to glean was that in 2019, 3 officers killed. In 2020, 0 officers killed. But in 2021, there were 5 police officers in the state of Illinois that were killed. Now, these aren't accidental. These aren't suicide. These were people killed in the line of duty. A couple of the instances that I was able to search through news reports from 2021 included somebody who was laying spike strips down during a pursuit. They were hit by a vehicle. Somebody else killed in a shootout. Another officer killed in a shootout that the assailant also died in that shootout. That was actually in Senator Chapin Rose's district back in 2021. And it's a trend that's not very pleasant to have to talk about, but something that I think highlights the concerns there are with what some see as lax provisions to hold people accountable. So I connected with State Senator Chapin Rose yesterday to kind of review some of the trend levels there, especially when law enforcement are involved and are killed in the line of duty. And what I saw was from the past 10 years of reporting up to the full year of 2021, the FBI stats, they ultimately showed that there were 14 police officers in Illinois feloniously killed in that 10 years. 5 plus 3 in the past 3 years. So 8 of 14 officers killed in the line of duty in Illinois happened within the past 3 years. So that obviously shows a trend line upwards. Here's State Senator Chapin Rose sharing some of his reaction to just the overall increase in crime that he's seeing being reported in these types of statistics.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that crime is through the roof. And what do you expect when you have a bunch of, pro-crime, anti-citizen Democrats running Illinois? I mean, they passed bills that, to let everybody out of jail, let some pretty heinous people out of jail. I mean, they're like, oh, no, it's just low-level nonviolent offenders, whatever. I mean, we've got some pretty heinous people walking our streets because they've been let out of jail by Governor Pritzker and his cronies and the General Assembly. It's sort of like the 1984 newspeak. They'll say stuff like the Safety Act when it's anything but safe, and that you're supporting the rights of criminals over the rights of victims and society at whole, as a whole. I don't get it, because the first function of any government is to keep its people safe, and Governor Pritzker and the Democrats in Springfield have done the exact opposite. And, it shows. I mean, this is proof, positive that their approach has made people less safe, has made our streets less safe, has made the people who defend us every day, our police officers, the men and women in uniform, less safe. There's one party in this state that, passed the Safety Act. and let all these people out of jail and continues to let people out of jail. I mean, it's completely insane. I mean, with the governor's own appointments to the Prisoner Review Board in terms of parole, one of the appointments, the only qualification she had to be on the Prisoner Review Board was apparently she was godmother to Barack Obama's kids. Well, that's not a qualification. That's patronage. It's Democrat patronage. You put somebody on the board to let everybody out of jail, and she's making $100,000 a year as a board member. That's called patronage, but it's not making our streets safer. It's not making our streets safer at all.
So again, State Senator Chapin Rose, chatted with him briefly yesterday evening after I reviewed some of these crime stats and just the upward trends that are apparent in the numbers reported by the FBI, and in particular in Illinois, which has a higher trend level than the rest of the country. And in particular, I narrowed in on the law enforcement killed in the line of duty. These aren't accidental. These were individuals who were working at the time, had their full police powers, but were killed in the line of duty. 14 Illinois officers in the span of 10 years, 8 of the 14 since 2019 through 2021. So that indicates, again, in the past 3 years or so, we've seen an uptick in the number of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. When you compare that with other states, Texas and California also, they have large populations, but their numbers are definitely topping the list. But Illinois, if you look at the 10-year, was about number 9 on that list for law enforcement feloniously killed. And then when you break down to 2021, I think it was like 3rd or 4th when it comes to law enforcement officers feloniously killed. And we have an incident here in Springfield, and I got a scores of police reports of a recent arrest where somebody who has a criminal history was involved in a chase with police after them, and police getting close to the suspect got into a tussle, and the individual here, and this is in Illinois, Springfield. The individual grabbed the officer's gun and tried to shoot it off. That just shows just how dangerous law enforcement can be. But I asked Senator Rose, he talked about the Safety Act. He talked about the Pretrial Fairness Act and criticized it. I asked if there's any way to get across to Democrats the concerns that Republicans and some prosecutors have of the Safety Act, and what's possible to happen here if the concerns are this dire and this grave. He said that he doesn't hold out hope that there's going to be much willingness to win people over, but he lays out some of his speculation here. Again, Chapin Rose, state senator from the Champaign-Urbana area.
Well, I think the fact that they've had to amend it so many times since it originally passed shows you that it was a bad idea to begin with. But I don't think this is an issue where you find consensus with the current members of the General Assembly. I think you find absolute consensus with the people of the state of Illinois. I think the people of the state of Illinois think this is crazy, but I don't think the people who voted for this, the progressive leftists in this state that dominate the Springfield legislature, I don't think you can find a common ground with them because they think this is a good idea. I've yet to find an actual taxpayer who thinks it's a great idea, but the leftist progressive lawyers that got elected to Springfield, they think it's a great idea. So, I think this is one of these issues that has to be solved at the ballot box, quite frankly. And I think that, and I'll tell you, if a few of these suburban Democrats who voted for it lose this election on the issue of crime, I think the Democrats that come back in the spring will have a greatly, their attitude will have changed greatly.
So we'll see what happens ultimately in the political issues that are topping some of the latest conversations are indeed vast. We'll review some of that coming up here next, here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. All right, we've been talking about crime and punishment, and that seems to be one of the top issues heading into November. But what are some of the other issues? As, of course, we reviewed some of the just overview of crime stats seeming to trend upwards, not just across the country, but even in the state of Illinois. But some of the major political figures in the states are seeming to lay out what they feel are the top issues that voters are going to be going to the polls about. So you're going to hear a TV ad for Darren Bailey from people who play by the rules PAC. You're going to hear a TV ad for Governor J.B. Pritzker with a woman sharing her personal abortion story. And then you're going to hear Senate Minority Leader Dan McConkey laying out what he thinks some of the voters are saying are the top issues. Plus, Governor J.B. Pritzker sharing why he thinks abortion is a winning issue heading into November. Here are those collection of voices on WMAY.
Darren Bailey isn't popular with the political establishment of either party because he's from the real world.
I'm proud to be a family farmer. We fix things that are broken, we solve problems, and we grow things.
Like you, Bailey knows what hasn't worked.
Decade after decade of mismanagement in Springfield, back-to-back billionaire governors, and where has that gotten us?
High taxes, high unemployment, and high crime rates. How much worse does it have to get before we give a practical problem solver a try?
He doesn't understand what we went through. He wasn't the one who got the phone call saying that our daughter was dying. We were. It's like saying that a family doesn't know what they're doing. Whether it be in the case of fetal health, rape, or incest, women are perfectly capable of making their own decisions. Darren Bailey puts his beliefs before my health, and I fundamentally disagree with him on that.
So when we're at the doors, we're talking to independents, the number one thing people are talking about is the economy. Continues to be inflation, even though gas prices have come down a little bit. And it also continues to be crime. We're seeing crime continue to be rampant in the city of Chicago, spreading out into the suburbs and even going into areas downstate. These are the things that people are concerned about and are talking about, do I want to raise my family in this environment? Those are the problems we have to absolutely solve in order to not only help keep people in the state, but make us a net importer of people once again.
I think you can see not only from polling data, but very importantly from the numbers of people who show up at abortion rights activist protests, that it is growing and growing and growing. The support that people have shown for candidates and their willingness to register to vote. Look at how many women have registered to vote around the country as compared to men, and especially in swing states. It's been very important. I think that I'm feeling across the state a real surge of momentum for candidates that are pro-choice, that are just going to stand up for women's reproductive health.
So pretty stark contrast there between the Republican messages of crime being top of mind versus Democrats saying that abortion is top of mind heading into November. That's now 7 o'clock.
Studios. Take the easy way out. WMAY FM.